Let's face it, our beautiful, precious, non-refundable world is a mess today. It is full of conflict, strife, poverty, hunger, and anger. But it is also abundant in love, compassion, generosity, kindness, and hope. We're here to talk to you about how we are bridging that sometimes massive divide that makes it challenging, but not impossible, for compassionate people to make a lasting impact. We've all heard about the global refugee crisis. Very likely, some of you may know it personally. We hear the generic statistics that 65 million people have been forced to flee their homes due to conflict and persecution. 65 million people. We have a hard time comprehending what a massive scale of humanity that really means. And if we can't comprehend it, how do we work towards solving it? For us, we start one face at a time. Our aim is to show that everyday individuals like you and us can, in fact, take our compassion and turn it into action to help the most vulnerable people today.
2 weeks ago, we were in the Suda and Vial refugee camps on Chios Island in Greece. We partner with NGOs to document their work, and this was our second trip to the island this year. We were there during the bitterly cold winter when refugees were freezing in their tents. Now, people are living in the blistering heat of summer. We see infants, children, the elderly living in subhuman conditions day after day with no end in sight. This map shows where Chios Island is located relative to the rest of Greece and Turkey. It's one of the closest islands to the Turkish coast, which is why it's become a hotspot for refugee landings. The boat crossing from Turkey can take anywhere from 30 minutes, if your motor is working, to 5 hours or more, depending on the circumstances. We'd like to introduce you to some of the individuals. This is Mustafa, who had been living in the Suda camp for 19 months. He said, "I did not come all the way from Syria just to die here." And he shared this video of his ocean crossing.
لا سمح الله اذا رحتوا هناك اشتكيتوا علي قلتوا لي هذا الشوفير علق قوسكم كلياتكم. يلا سووا باي سووا باي. سووا باي سووا باي.
Throughout the landing zones, you will find discarded life preservers. Many of them are counterfeit, and often they do not work. These two are from a beach in Chios. This is the inner tube for a motorcycle. And these shoddy excuses for life preservers are all that some people can trust their lives to. Just 2 weeks ago, the last day that we were in Greece, 4 children and 2 women drowned trying to make the ocean crossing from Turkey. Life for refugees is fragile.
When we were in the camps, the one recurring request that we receive from many refugees is that we tell their stories to people. Others want the world to know that they are not terrorists, and they simply want to find safety. Women and girls are highly vulnerable to the dangers of fleeing their homeland, as well as once they are detained in camps or in a new country. When we were there in the winter, we met these 3 men, living in a shelter made from a hull of a boat and debris. Amir, Asahid, and Maliki are from Palestine, Algeria, and Morocco, respectively. Amir worked in construction in Palestine. As we sat together, we communicated through Google Translate on our phones. The message that Amir has typed in Arabic, translated into English, says, "I do not have a homeland."
This is the Suda refugee camp. On the left side is a high stone wall of an ancient fort, and on the right is a cliff in a residential neighborhood. We don't have photos of the Vial refugee camp because it's on a military installation. And when we were there, we were specifically warned by the authorities that if we took photos of the camp or facilities, we would be arrested immediately. The man with the white hair and beard is Yusuf, who fled Syria and has been living in the Suda camp for over a year. The Suda camp has been attacked and firebombed by nationalists on multiple occasions, and Yusuf shared this video and the next photo of 2 of the attacks.
هذا الحريق كم كيوس في جزيرة كيوس السوداء، مظاهرات وحرقوا الكم.
Attackers threw rocks and boulders from the cliffs above at the refugees in the tents below, and they burned tents and storage facilities. After often risking their lives to reach safe haven, refugees discover the hard truth that they're still not safe, even when under the protection of local and world authorities. Here, several men from Syria, Iraq, and other countries warmed themselves by a fire in the ancient tunnels of the fort next to the camp. The firebomb attack you saw was launched from the top of this fort, and these men seek shelter underneath it. A 17-year-old unaccompanied minor said to us, "If you tell our stories to people and people just feel sad, it doesn't do us any good. We need people to take action and help us."
This tent is designated Tent Orange UN number 5. We'd like to bring you inside. There were 10 people living in this tent, 7 single men and a father with his 2 children. Every one of them had their own reason for fleeing their homeland. This is Mohammed. We'd like to share his story, and he has given us permission to share his details. Mohammed is 23 years old, and he's from Iraq. He has been in the Suda camp for over 9 months. Mohammed worked for a large foreign company with operations in Basra, Iraq. He began to receive threats from a local gang because he worked for a non-Muslim company, and they did not approve. Mohammed shared these next 2 photos with us. One day, Mohammed and his brother were attacked by the people who threatened him. His brother was shot and killed, and Mohammed sustained a head injury in the attack. The gang continued to pursue him, and Mohammed had no choice but to flee Iraq to save his life. After he fled his homeland, the same gang set fire to his family's home. Fearing for their lives, his parents and his 4 other brothers went into hiding. Mohammed lost contact with them 5 months ago. He has been trying to reach them with no success. He does not know if his mother, his father, or his brothers are alive or dead today. He fears that they are dead. Mohammed's asylum application was rejected 2 months ago. He's appealing the decision and now is in limbo, waiting to hear his fate. This is Mohammed from 2 weeks ago. He is hoping to get asylum in Canada or anywhere else where he can be safe. We are trying to find counsel and advocates to help him with his case.
Refugee smugglers are often dismissed as one of the lowest forms of life. But what does it say about the world that we live in when a refugee smuggler might be saving more lives than a government is willing to save? Many horrible stories were shared by people in the camps. One person who was imprisoned in their home country said their captors told them, "You can either be killed or raped. You decide which one." And they made that person choose. What would you do in a situation like that? What would you do to protect your family in a situation like that? How terrible and immediate must the danger be for a parent to send their child to another country alone? In the camps and in general, there's a rule that you don't identify unaccompanied minors in photos because human traffickers will specifically target abducting those children or teenagers if it's known that they're on their own. Not just in Greece, but everywhere. Nobody is watching out for them. Nobody will know that they are missing. Not surprisingly, many refugees suffer from post-traumatic stress disorders. People may inflict self-harm or attempt or commit suicide because they've lost hope. It's a tragedy that happens too often and continues to occur for people of all ages, including minors. Several weeks ago, a distraught 29-year-old man doused himself with fuel and set himself on fire. He suffered burns over 85% of his body, and he died 2 days later. Thousands upon thousands of refugees have descended upon Greece's shores over the years, overwhelming much of the country and its resources. Nevertheless, Greece has taken responsibility to help when so many other countries have turned their backs on refugees. Greece is far from perfect, but at least they're doing something. Sadly, Given the lack of political courage among so many nations today, refugee camps are where hope goes to die.
On our recent trip, we wanted to give something back to the people in the camps. We realized that most everybody had lost their precious family photos when they fled their homeland. So this time, we brought several portable photo printers, our favorite orange backdrop, and a couple 100 pounds of gear and materials with us. After asking very nicely, we gained the consent and assistance from local authorities and camp managers to set up mini studios outside the Vial and Suda camps. Our intention was simple. We believe having a printed photo of your family or your friends is a special thing to hold in your hands and can be a great comfort in times of need. We intentionally cropped out the context of the refugee camp because we wanted to focus on the individuals, not their label as merely refugees. Many people wanted to have their portraits taken against the backdrop of the Aegean Sea, the very body of water that they risked their lives in crossing. Every refugee is fighting their own personal struggle, and we believe that it is cruel to overlook that. Refugees are not faceless statistics. These are individuals, each with their own hopes for a better life and a kinder world. These individuals matter. There is a saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men and women do nothing. Do we open our arms or turn our backs on the most vulnerable people today? The question we pose to you is, will you step up now when our world needs you most? We're asking you to use your tools, your skills, your compassion to help relieve this crisis. Everybody is particularly good at something. What are you best at, or even reasonably good at?
Our particular tools are our cameras, and our skills are very simple. One skill is our willingness to make eye contact with strangers, smile, and start a conversation. Our other tool is our willingness to speak up and raise awareness about causes that are important to us. Are there obstacles? Sure there are, but Google Translate on our phones now enables us to communicate with people almost anywhere in the world. And the internet allows us to plan our logistics to the smallest detail to mitigate risk. We found the resources we needed to create our own action. The response to the portrait project at the camps was tremendous. Over the course of several days at the Suda and Vial refugee camps, we provided 1,500 printed portraits to people. We showed people with courage, beauty, dignity, and grace. We plan to continue this project by going to other refugee camps around the world and providing more portraits to more people. Our aim is to show that everyday people, like you and us, can, in fact, take our compassion and turn it into action to help the most vulnerable people today. We're not trying to say projects like this are that simple to do, but they actually can be if you choose to make it so.
Right now, some of you might be thinking, well, it's easy for us to stand up here talking about all this idealistic stuff when we get paid to travel around the world taking photos. We want to let you in on a little secret. We do not get paid to do this, and we both have full-time day jobs. Daniel works in finance, I work for a pharmaceutical company. Our documentary work is done whenever and wherever we can fit it in between our jobs, our 4 children, which is a whole other story, and the demands of our daily life. We plan our time accordingly because this is important to us. What we found from our experiences is that in focusing on helping people, it doesn't take away from other parts of our lives. It truly opens up so much more. Not just on an emotional or a spiritual level, but on the way we prioritize and spend our waking minutes. If you want to help refugees now, donate money, resources, your time to local groups that are active in locations where there is need. If you want to help with longer-term solutions, support organizations like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, who are trying to change policy. Find your legislators who are sympathetic to refugees and basic human rights and support them. But equally importantly, reach out to those legislators who are fighting against refugees and let them know you want your country to do its fair share in addressing this crisis. Tell them, diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. Tell them, you are not afraid.
We don't think that we are naively optimistic on the future, but perhaps we should all start being just a little bit more. We truly believe that ordinary people engaging to fix the hard parts of this world can drive the change that we need. We believe that when enough everyday people, like you and us, use our words and actions to shout, "This has gone on for too long, this must stop," then policymakers and politicians will have to take notice and respond. Clearly, we have a long way to go, but never give up. Hope does not die here. The question we pose to you again is, will you step up now when our world needs you most? Thank you very much.